The townhouse on Commonwealth Avenue had begun to feel less like a fortress and more like a home. Its tall windows, once cold and unyielding, now caught the late summer light in a way that softened the edges of the world. Inside, the air smelled of fresh paint and lavender, a scent Ellie insisted on after convincing Vivian to plant a small herb garden on the balcony. The space was alive with small changes: a child's drawing taped to the fridge, a pair of Owen's work boots neatly tucked by the door, and a new ramp alongside the front steps, blending seamlessly with the brownstone's architecture. Vivian stood in the kitchen, her walker nearby but untouched for the moment. She was stirring a pot of soup, her first attempt at cooking in years. The act felt foreign, almost rebellious for a woman who had once delegated every domestic task to staff. Her hands, still adjusting to their rediscovered strength, moved with cautious precision. She glanced at the recipe card Ellie had decorated with glitter and sunflower stickers, a gift from their last rooftop garden visit. "Add love," it read at the bottom in Ellie's wobbly handwriting. Vivian smiled, shaking her head. "Easier said than done, kid." Owen was in the living room, assembling a bookshelf he'd found at a thrift store. Ellie sat cross-legged on the floor, sorting books into piles. One for stories about brave animals, another for grown-up books with too many words. She hummed her sunflower song, the one she'd made up in the hospital, her voice weaving through the soft clatter of Owen's tools. "Daddy, do you think books get lonely if no one reads them?" Ellie asked, holding up a battered copy of Charlotte's Web. Owen paused, screwdriver in hand. "Maybe, but I think they're patient. They wait for the right person to find them." Ellie nodded, satisfied, and placed the book on the to-be-read pile. Vivian watched them from the kitchen, her chest tightening with a warmth she still wasn't used to. This quiet domesticity wasn't something she'd ever imagined for herself. 3 years ago, her world had been boardrooms, deadlines, and the sterile hum of hospital machines. Now it was this: a little girl's laughter, a man's steady presence, and the slow, stubborn reclamation of her own body and heart. The soup bubbled over, hissing on the stove. Vivian swore under her breath, grabbing a towel. Owen glanced up, smirking. "Need a sous chef?" "I need a miracle," she muttered, but there was a lightness in her tone. "This is why I hired chefs." Ellie giggled, bounding into the kitchen. "It smells like adventure. Can I taste it?" Vivian raised an eyebrow. "Only if you're brave enough to survive my cooking." Ellie grabbed a spoon, undeterred, and took a cautious sip. Her face scrunched, then lit up. "It's not perfect, but it's you," she declared. "That's better." Vivian's laugh was soft, almost disbelieving. "You're too kind, kid." The Ellie initiative had launched with more fanfare than Vivian preferred, but its impact was undeniable. Ravelin Industries had transformed an entire wing of its headquarters into a rehabilitation center, offering free physical therapy and emotional support to employees and their families. The program was named for Ellie, though she insisted the real heroes were the people who show up when it's hard. Vivian had hired Owen as the lead coordinator, not just for his experience as a former medic, but for his quiet ability to make people feel seen. He wasn't just fixing bodies anymore. He was helping rebuild lives. But not everything was smooth. Vivian's recovery was a jagged line, not a straight one. Some days she could walk half a block without assistance, her steps steady and proud. Other days, her legs betrayed her, stiff and unresponsive, forcing her back to the walker or wheelchair. Those were the days she hated most. Not for the physical setback, but for the way they dragged her back to the woman she used to be. Cold, guarded, afraid to hope. One such morning, as rain tapped against the townhouse windows, Vivian sat in her home gym staring at the parallel bars. Her legs felt like lead, and every attempt to stand ended in a frustrating collapse. Owen was there, as always, adjusting the resistance bands with the same patience he'd shown in the hospital. "You don't have to watch me fail," Vivian said, her voice sharp with frustration. Owen didn't flinch. "I'm not watching you fail. I'm watching you try." She glared at him, but there was no heat in it. "What if I'm tired of trying?" He knelt beside her, his eyes steady. "Then we rest. But you don't quit. Not you! Vivian looked away, her throat tight. I'm not her anymore, Owen. The woman who built an empire. The one who never broke. He reached for her hand, his touch warm and grounding. You're not her, and you don't have to be. You're Vivian. That's enough. Ellie burst into the room, oblivious to the tension. Miss Vivian, I made you a new sign. She held up a piece of paper with bold marker letters. You're already winning because you're here. Below it, she'd drawn a sunflower with legs, running toward a rainbow. Vivian's lips twitched, the anger melting. You're relentless, aren't you? Ellie grinned. Daddy says I'm like a weed. I grow where I'm not supposed to. Owen chuckled, and Vivian felt the weight in her chest lift, just a little. She reached for the bars again. All right, weed. Let's see if I can keep up. The city was changing, and so were they. Owen had started teaching Ellie how to plant real sunflowers in the rooftop garden, their petals now a bright splash against the gray skyline. Vivian joined them when she could, her wheelchair gliding along the gravel paths, or on better days, her walker clicking softly. The garden had become their sanctuary, a place where time slowed and the world felt less heavy. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Vivian sat on a bench watching Ellie chase fireflies. Owen sat beside her, his arm resting casually on the back of the bench. The silence between them was comfortable, filled with the hum of crickets and Ellie's delighted squeals. Do you ever think about leaving? Vivian asked suddenly. Starting over somewhere else? Owen tilted his head. Thought about it once or twice back when things were harder. But then I look at Ellie, at you, and I realize I'm already where I'm supposed to be. Vivian looked at him, her eyes searching. You don't get tired of fixing people? Of fixing me? He smiled, soft and sure. I'm not fixing you, Vivian. I'm just walking with you. There's a difference. She leaned her head against his shoulder, a gesture so small yet so monumental for a woman who had spent years building walls. I'm scared, she admitted, her voice barely audible. What if I fall again? Not just my legs, but all of me. Owen's hand found hers, his fingers lacing through hers. Then we'll catch you. Me, Ellie, the sunflowers. You're not alone anymore. Ellie ran up, a firefly cupped gently in her hands. Look, it's a tiny star. She opened her palms and the light blinked before flying off. See? Even stars get to go home. Vivian watched the firefly disappear into the dusk, her heart aching with a quiet, unfamiliar joy. Yeah, she whispered. They do. The Ellie initiative was gaining attention, not just in Boston but across the country. News outlets ran stories about the little girl who inspired a corporate giant to rethink its priorities. Vivian, once known as the Ice Queen, was now hailed as a visionary, though she brushed off the praise. It's not about me, she'd say in interviews. It's about the people who stay. But not everyone was pleased. Some board members grumbled about the costs, the shift in focus from profits to philanthropy. At a tense meeting, the CFO, a man named Richard Hargrove, leaned forward, his glasses glinting. Vivian, this initiative is admirable, but we're not a charity. Our stock dipped 3 points last quarter. We can't afford to keep bleeding for sentiment. Vivian's eyes narrowed, but her voice was calm. Sentiment built this company, Richard. People believed in me when I was nothing but a name and a dream. Now we're giving that back. If you can't see the value in that, maybe you're the one bleeding. The room went silent. Owen, sitting in the back as an observer, hid a smile. Ellie, who had insisted on coming, was coloring in the corner, seemingly oblivious, but listening to every word. After the meeting, Richard cornered Vivian in the hallway. You're not the same woman who built this empire, he said, his tone low. You're letting a janitor and a kid call the shots. Vivian's gaze was steel. I'm more myself now than I ever was. And if you can't handle that, there's the door. He walked away, muttering, but Vivian didn't flinch. She turned to Owen, who was helping Ellie pack her crayons. Did I overdo it? She asked, half joking. Owen grinned. You were perfect. Ellie looked up. You were like a sunflower telling the rain to go away. Vivian laughed, and for the first time she didn't care who heard it. That night, as they sat in the townhouse, Ellie curled up on the couch with Mr. Pickles, her stuffed bear. Vivian was reading a report, her glasses perched on her nose, while Owen sketched designs for a new therapy tool. The quiet was warm, filled with the soft rhythm of their breathing. Ellie broke the silence. "Miss Vivian, do you think the stars ever forget how to shine?" Vivian lowered her report, considering. "Maybe sometimes. But they always find their light again, especially when someone's looking." Ellie nodded, satisfied. "Then we'll keep looking at you so you never forget." Vivian's eyes softened and she reached for Ellie's hand. "And I'll keep looking at you, kid. Deal?" "Deal," Ellie said, squeezing her hand. Owen watched them, his heart full. This wasn't the life he'd planned. A janitor turned therapist, a father turned partner to a woman who'd once seemed untouchable. But it was the life he'd chosen, and every step, every quiet moment felt like a miracle. Vivian caught his gaze. "What are you thinking?" he smiled. "That sometimes the best homes aren't built with walls. They're built with people." She nodded, her eyes glistening. "Then let's keep building." The story paused here, but it's far from over. If you'd like me to continue, I can explore their next steps. Perhaps a new challenge for the Ellie Initiative, a deeper look into Vivian's recovery, or the evolving bond between the three. Alternatively, I can focus on a specific scene, character arc, or theme to expand toward your 10,000-word goal. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll keep weaving this tale of quiet miracles and open doors. Where are you tuning in from? And what part of this story resonates with you most?